Hello, and welcome back to Idjit Gaming and our playthrough of Satisfactory. This will try to be a guided playthrough where I go through step by step, trying to explain everything I possibly can in a very easily digestible manner, so that even if this kind of game isn't really clicking in your head, maybe my explanation will be enough so that you understand the objective, and I can make it entertaining in my antics and just me being me. One things I want to do is I want to unlock base building and logistics. Base building because we want foundations. So we're going to go ahead and select this milestone. I'm going to fill this in. And after I hit the big red button, Ada's going to go through her spiel and we're going to let her talk. So I'm going to go quiet for a second after I smack the big red button.
Milestone reached. Several new structures are now available for improving factory organization. Foundations provide a building grid, which makes it easier to manage placement of any structure. In the event that you are experiencing amnesia for all events prior to planetfall, be reassured that memories of beloved humans and/or animals would have only been distractions from your important mission.
Okay, now she's done with her spiel. We're going to come down here to foundations, and we're going to grab the 4-meter foundation because that gives us a nice little ways off the ground. And one of the hidden mechanics that they don't really tell you about in this game is called the world grid. The entire world map is based on 1 meter by 1 meter squares. Think of grid paper or graphing paper, however you call it. And basically the whole map's like that. If you go to place a foundation, it can snap anywhere. And every time you go up elevation, it will climb with it. If you hold down control, though, it will snap. And it is snapping to what is called the world grid. Now, the entire reason why we're going to use the world grid is if I make a platform or something over there, or over here, and over here, they will all snap together. The only difference will be the height of the platforms, which we can work with. So we're going to go ahead and snap a foundation down right about here, just out in the middle of everywhere. I'm going to switch over to Zoop mode because that allows me to get foundations in a straight line and I don't have to make them one at a time, which, yay. And even it saves time is a yay. And we're going to put down a fair amount of these. I kind of hope I have enough concrete to do what I want to do because right now I don't have power. And I don't have power because the very first thing I'm going to do here is semi-automate power. And the freighter is back so we can get the next milestone checked off. Because we need this conveyor splitter and we need this conveyor merger. They're very, very, very important for what I want to do. So select milestone. And as you see, I went ahead and crafted all this stuff off camera. And again, smack the big red button. And listen to Ada.
Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to save space and enhance the productivity of your factory. Fixit encourages you to consider investing in verticality when it comes to factory logistics. If you feel stressed by this complexity, imagine yourself on the shore of a vast and calm ocean. Breathe in. Visualize all the people relying on you. The sea is made of billions of faces, each staring at you with hope and tears in their eyes. Breathe out. Feel refreshed and focused on your duties.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that doesn't help me feel relaxed at all. Put a whole bunch of stress on me. Yeah. Let me know that, everybody I've ever known and loved is depending on me. That doesn't make me feel relaxed. I don't know about you. I do realize I need another 10 concrete, so we're going to go ahead and just do a little hand mining. Because like I said, I don't have power right now. We're going to get that sorted here momentarily. But for right now, I need 10 concrete. So back to the bench. Again, like I said in the tutorial video, this thing will be your best friend and your worst enemy. Right now, it's being my worst enemy. So what I want to do is I want to place down 3 biomass burners. and I want them in a very specific place. After you get your hologram out, if you press the H key, it will lock it in place so you can walk around and see if it's where you want. And I want this right on the edge. I want a little more. Nope, that's too much. As you see, you can nudge a hologram to fine-tune the placement of your building by using the arrow keys. And everything I am going through is the controls for PC. And I do want my output to be facing that direction. That is facing towards that clump of trees. But this isn't going exactly where I want it. So I'm going to hold down the left control button and use my arrow key again, which gives me a mini nudge or a half a nudge. That gets me a little closer. It tells me I can't get any closer than that. Hey, we have a biomass burner. Now we need a splitter. We come down here to logistics, and I always put the conveyor merger and splitter on my hotbar by just hovering over it and pressing the 5 key. And that binds it down to the hotbar. I want this right in front, but I want the orange arrow, which is the input arrow. Orange is input, green is output. I want it facing that way, and I want one of the green arrows facing directly into the biomass burner. You'll see this moving dashed line here. That lets you know that your output is lined up to the input of another machine. So now we know this is lined up. I'm going to go ahead and move it out just a little bit, just so you guys can see a little bit better. And we're going to connect this up. I'm a big fan of the straight build mode, which we're going to access by pressing the R key. And I'm going to jump up on top of here, just because this makes it a little easier to see what I'm doing. We're going to lock that in place. We see the dashed line. That tells me that we're lined up on inputs. We'll put that there. And we're going to put another one over here. If you are too close, the building will turn red. If you are overlapping, it will turn yellow. Overlapping means it will still function. There's going to be some overlapping. We don't like overlapping, so we're going to lock in place, and we're going to put it right there. So now we have 3 biomass burners all connected to this splitter by conveyors. And the splitter evenly distributes the items that come in to the orange side out the silver sides. So you have 1 input, 3 outputs. If 30 resource per minute comes in the orange side, it will split 10 resource out, 10 resource out, 10 resource out. If you only have 2 belts, you'll get 15 and 15. So whatever you go in, it splits evenly. And you can chain these up and go from 3 items to 9, 5, whatever your heart's desire, and it will evenly split it if you set them up right. But we're not going to get into that today. I'm going to come down here to organization. We're going to take a storage container. We're going to make sure that the green arrow is facing the orange arrow. And as you see, green, orange. And I'm going to get this really close because, well, space is at a premium. I don't have a lot of concrete, so yeah. I'm going to come over to this side. I'm going to press my E as an elephant key, and that will switch from my splitter to my merger. The merger is the polar opposite of a splitter. It brings 3 items in and combines them onto 1 belt. And we're going to get this guy right up here on the other side of this storage bin. The storage bin is here as a buffer. And I'm already noticing that I don't have enough foundations down. But we're going to take a constructor and we're going to place it over here to the left. And we're going to connect its output to one of the inputs of the merger. If I get really lucky, I can put the other one down on this side. And one thing you can do is you can hold down the control key, which will help align it. You see the solid blue line here. That tells you this one is directly in line with that one. It doesn't tell you that it's the same distance from this. It just tells you it's lined up. That way, that one's footprint and that one's footprint are exactly the same space. So yay, we have that set up. This is a very, very simple power plant. We're going to put a power pole right here and right here. We're going to hook this biomass burner to this power pole, this one to it as well. We're going to connect this power pole to this power pole, bring this biomass burner into the other one. Each one of these Mark I power poles only have 4 inputs, so I'm trying to limit how many I put in. We're going to grab that, and all I did is I hit my 2 key, which is the default key for the power line connection. And the power line tries to put a power line down and a power pole at the end of it, unless you're connecting to something that already has a power pole, like a building. We're going to hook that constructor and this constructor up. One thing we are going to do is come into these constructors, because something I didn't touch on last time is biomass. We went over leaves and wood and biomass burners, but we didn't go over biomass, which is another step. So we're going to set this one to leaves into biomass, or the recipe biomass leaves. We're going to set this one to biomass wood. And we're going to put the wood in this one. Now, as you see, they're not doing anything because they don't have any power. I said earlier, my power grid is currently turned off because I'm being cheap. I'm going to take my power pole here and I'm going to snap it into this power line. And I'm going to take this one and snap it into that power line. And therefore, these 3 power biomass burners are now on my grid. So once I put a little power into these, and I'm going to just right-click on one of these piles of leaves, which will split it in half, or as best as it can be split in half. If it's an odd number, obviously you can't have a decimal. We're going to throw the lever, and we're going to get power going again. So right now, I have more power consumption than what I have power production. So we're going to disconnect this power line here, because we don't need it right this second. And we're going to throw the lever again. See, now my max consumption drops to 30. Well, that's great. I'm making 40 with these 2 biomass burners on the back of the hub. We come back over here, we'll notice that we're getting these nice little biomass briquettes. They're coming out of both machines, going into the merger, and then going into the storage bin, storage container, whatever you want to call it. From there, it goes into the splitter and splits out evenly between these 3 biomass burners. Each one of these is getting fuel, and every one of these biomass burners produces 30 megawatts. So right here we have 1, 2, 3 biomass burners for a combined total of 90 megawatts. The great thing about this, I don't have to use these 2 anymore. I'm going to go ahead and just pull the leaves out of these, because I feel like being stingy. And we can go ahead and hook this wire back up. Then we come to our power pole, it will tell us that our maximum consumption is 43 megawatts, which is 3 megawatts more than the 40 that these 2 can provide. But a far cry from the 90 the new grid is providing. So we got plenty of power. And I touched on this last time, but the nice thing about biomass burners is they only provide the amount of power that's required. If I'm consuming 39.1 megawatts, they will produce 39.1 megawatts, which means they will only burn the amount of fuel that they need to power what is needed. They are basically the only power plant in the game that only burns what they need to burn. because they realize biomass is a pain in the butt. Why is biomass a pain in the butt? There is no way to automate biomass collection as far as I am aware. I've heard that there is kind of sort of a way, but that's way down the line, and we're not going to get into that at the moment. For right now, where we are in the game, if you're playing along with me, there is no way to automate biomass, so we're just going to go under that assumption. And I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more foundations down because, as you noticed, I grabbed a little more concrete. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use the middle mouse button while looking at the storage container to grab it. And that allows me to build another one. I've got my dashed line, tells me I'm lined up with that output. I'm making sure my green arrow is facing the orange arrow, so input to output, or output to input. This is my leaves bin. So I'm going to take this storage bin and I'm going to put all these leaves in it. And as you see, they come out of the storage bin and they go into the constructor. Once the constructor's full, they just back up. But that means this constructor is going to keep making biomass. And these two constructors will not stop making biomass, I'm trying to get up here, until either they run out of a resource, which will be this one when it runs out of wood, this one when it runs out of leaves, or when this bin is completely full, this belt backs up, that belt backs up, that belt backs up, and the machine's output buffer backs up. And when I mean output buffer, I'm talking about here. Every machine has an input buffer and an output buffer. They can hold one stack of their respective resource. So however much that resource stacks up, in leaves case, it's 500. In biomass, I think it's 200. Which we can't really tell right now because nothing's backed up. But we have now semi-automated power production. And I'm going to throw down a lookout tower so I can get a little bit of height and try to show you how this works. Find the ladder. We'll climb up here and we'll look down this factory. I think this is a halfway decent vantage point to try to explain this. So we have a storage bin here and a storage bin here. This one we will fill with wood. This one will fill with leaves. They will go into their respective constructors. The constructors will take the resource and turn it into biomass. They use different base ingredients, but the output is the same resource. So once they're done constructing, it's biomass. They don't care if the biomass is made from leaves or made from wood. And it goes into a merger, into another storage bin. That way we have an overfill buffer. So even if all the biomass burners are completely full, we can still have some backup fuel. Think of this as the gas tank. Once these guys run out of fuel in them, they can get fuel out of the gas tank. And then that runs into a conveyor splitter, which is evenly distributing the biomass coming out amongst those three machines. Make sense? Awesome. Good. I'm going to take a little fall damage here because the lookout tower is a little tall, but fall damage really isn't that big of a deal. And we're going to get on to our first actual production factory. And I'm going to grab this little portable miner because we don't need it anymore. One slightly tricksy thing about this game is that miners, the actual automated miners, don't play well with foundations. We're already out of concrete again. I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a theme. So I'm kind of hoping there's a fair amount of concrete over here and we don't have to keep going back and forth to get more concrete because that's going to get annoying. We got 64. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be enough, but whatever. We'll go get this little factory built. And we're going to start explaining about the math of this game. Because yes, unfortunately, this game does involve math. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to make it as painless as possible. If I got lucky, I believe a 2-meter foundation will still allow a miner to be placed, which it does. Cool. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. And as you see, that is actually on the foundation's height, which is great. And I'm not being sarcastic there. I'm going to use the zoop mode again because I don't want to make these one by one. And yet again, we're out of concrete. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a theme. Unfortunately, there are some leaves here underneath my foundation. I don't like the look of those things poking through the foundation. The trees, I can't really do anything about right now, but I can get the next portion of this factory set up, which is a smelter. Any metallic ore, iron, copper, caterium, and any other ones. I'm pretty sure those are the only 3 metallic ores, but I might be wrong. My brain's not braining right now. Have to run into a smelter. Unless you get into some of the more advanced recipes down the road, but I will not be covering the advanced recipes in this series. Because if I go get a hard drive right this second and research it in the MAM, the recipe that I get may not be the same recipe you get. And I would rather not deal with, oh, I need this recipe that you got, but I've opened 10 hard drives and I haven't gotten it yet. So we're just not going to use alternate recipes for a while. I figure that's kind of the fairest way to play if you're going to play along with me. If you're going to do the same things I'm doing, this way we stay on the same page. We got a little bit more concrete. I don't need a whole lot right this second. We got a lot more to build over here. I just need a little bit. One drawback is your foundations can float. As you see, there's nothing under here. I can go under here. They're just magically floating in air. Physics don't really work. If you want to make it look nicer, you could take some foundations and you could put some supports, or you could put some walls to cover up the fact they're floating. I'm not going to worry about that right now because it kind of defeats what we're going for. But part of the math that we're going to get into is this miner outputs 30 iron ore per minute. We're not going to look at this 1 iron ore because this is 1 iron ore every 2 seconds. And if you actually do the math on that, 1 times 2, 60 seconds in a minute divided by 2 seconds equals 30. So we're not going to do that math every single time. It just tells you that you get 30 per minute. This smelter, when we tell it we're going to make iron ingots, it says it wants 30 per minute. Awesome. That matches up, right? That says 30 per minute. That gives 30 per minute. That takes 30 per minute. And after it takes the iron ore, it outputs iron ingots at 30 per minute. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Now we're going to take that and we're going to put it into a constructor. Because we already have a little mini factory over here making iron plates. We need to make iron rods. And I'm going to lay this out kind of weird by turning this constructor around. We want iron rods. But, oh no, Idjit, it says it wants 15 per minute. Well, the nice thing about that is this is really easy math. 15 plus 15 equals 30. So we're going to put another constructor down. We have 2 constructors wanting 30 or 15 per minute each. 15 plus 15 equals 30. This puts out 30. Yay, we're balanced. And I fall down. Oops. Make sure you watch where you're stepping. Wouldn't be me if I didn't do something silly like that. So we're going to take a conveyor splitter. We're going to turn the orange arrow to face the smelter. We're going to make sure one of the green arrows is lined up with a constructor, and we're going to connect them. Now, I am a big fan of the way these straight conveyors look. And I'll go over the 3 different ways. This is straight. See how it goes out, makes a sharp turn, and tries to stay straight. It tries to do everything on a 90-degree axis. I like that, but that's just me. You might like curve, where it just smoothly curves in there. Or you might even like default, where it makes a bend, makes a straight, makes another bend. I like this, and that's just my personal preference. So we're going to snap those together. So now we have a miner into a smelter. The smelter is outputting 30 iron ingots per minute. Each of these 2 constructors wants 15 per minute. So those are balanced, as all things should be. And I'm going to switch back to Zoop and try to put these 4 down, and that basically eats all my concrete, which is absolutely fine. Now we're going to take a conveyor merger, and I'm going to make sure that my green arrow is facing away. I want it to face over this way. And there's a reason for that we'll get into in just a second. Unfortunately, with just base movement, I can't jump up on top of a merger or splitter. I have to jump up on the conveyor belt and then jump. But I can get up here, and it makes it a little easier to hook up these conveyor belts. So we're going to run all of that into another storage container. That way, we have a storage container for our iron rods. Now, we need power. Because without power, none of these machines are going to do anything. We're going to bring this over. We're going to hook up to the smelter, or the miner and the smelter. And we're going to bring this over a little bit more, put it between the 2 constructors. And we're going to hook these up. Because remember, a Mark 1 power pole can only have 4 connections. So the line coming from that power pole to this power pole counts as 1. The line going to that constructor counts as 1, and going to that one counts as 1. That gives us 3. We go back into our power pole, or our power wire overlay. You see we're consuming 3 of the 4 connections. But I'm not done. I'm kind of done right this second, because yet again, I need to go get concrete, because I'm out. I don't have no more concrete. We'll come over here. Oh, look, there's more concrete. Yay! And we'll slide jump our way back over here. And I know I went over it last episode, and I may have went over it earlier on this one, but slide jumping is the fastest way to get around, so we're going to do a lot of slide jumps. Okay. Let's go over to the hub and see what the last milestone of Tier 1 requires. Field research. This gives us the MAM, and more importantly, the map. And more inventory spots. Yay! And we're going to disregard the fact I already have these screws. Because as you see, I don't have everything needed for this, but that's fine. That's why I have automation. But I was talking about the world grid earlier, and this is a prime example of what I was referring to. If I put a 4-meter foundation on this, see how they line up perfectly? The height doesn't work, because that one's up higher than this one, but the snap point does. So if I wanted to come in here and grab a wall, I could put a wall up here, and we're going to grab a 4-meter wall just to more highlight this. And I could kind of sort of obscure the fact that those 2 don't line up by putting a wall there and making it look like, it was planned. Obviously, it was not planned, and I'll admit that. We are going to take the output from this into another constructor. And we're going to line up the green arrow with the orange arrow like normal. We're going to notice that I'm completely out of iron plates. And we're going to also notice that I don't have this set to iron plates. Oops. We're going to throw these ingots in here just because I don't want them in my inventory. And I'm going to come over here and use the last of those little ingots just to go ahead and craft up a couple iron plates. Obviously, wow, that didn't take any time at all, right? Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And we're going to put a conveyor between these two. That takes me down to 3 iron plates, which probably is not enough to do what I need to do. So, yet again, we're going to come check on this, and hopefully we got 10. It's a decent stack. We're up to 15. Yay. Now, if you're wondering why I put this other constructor down, we need screws, and screws require iron rods to turn into screws. But here's where it gets kind of tricky. This wants 10 iron rods per minute. Well, we're making 30. Last I checked, 30 is more than 10. But what that's going to do, and we're going to put this guy right over here. This is going to be a little bit of a cluster, but it is what it is. So how this is going to work is each one of these is going to output 15 iron rods combined in to make 30. And as you see, there's a good gap between each one of these. This is 1 iron rod every 4 seconds. 60 seconds in a minute divided by 15 equals 4. Over here, when you combine 15 plus 15, you get 30. So this is now 1 iron rod every other second, or every 2 seconds. So iron rod, nothing. Iron rod, nothing. That's the missing. Because this belt operates at 60 per minute. Over here, these are all nicely lined up because they can't go nowhere. This thing ain't got no power. Which we can take care of by pulling that power wire over. I shouldn't have put those wires in the milestone in the freighter. So now we get hop, skip, and a jump over here to my copper node. Off to see the right wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Because he's got a big stack of wire. Don't judge me. Okay, now we got a whole bunch of wire. Let's go get this put together. And again, slide jumps for the win. Yay, I stuck the landing. But the Russian judges still give it a 3. Somebody gets my obscure Olympics references. We're going to pull this over here. And we're going to connect that constructor to that power wire. That way, all this is all hooked up. And we're going to bring a belt. And we're going to realize this is what happens when you don't line up your arrows. This is a green arrow into a green arrow. This does not work. I did do this intentionally. I didn't, but we're going to lie and say I did. We need to turn this around and make sure it's an orange into a green. Now, unfortunately, you'll run into this a lot. The not having enough resources. So you've already seen me run into it quite a few times. But what I mean is actually the conveyor belt being all wonky. Because this is not computable in the straight build mode. So what we would do in this scenario is press the R button to switch modes. Because as you see, if we switch over to the default, we have enough build resources and the conveyor belt is blue, which means we can build it. Blue is good, yellow is acceptable, red is bad. Basically, think of it as your standard traffic light. You stop on red, you kind of stop on yellow, and you just floor it on green. In this case, it's blue because we're colorblind. So what is going to happen here with the fact that these two constructors are outputting at 30? We're just going to put up a lookout tower. So we're up a little ways. We can look down at it. So maybe this will make a little bit more sense. That doesn't really help matters much, but okay, so miner into a smelter. The miner outputs 30 per minute. The smelter wants 30 per minute. Takes those 30 per minute iron ore and turns it into 30 iron ingots per minute. The two constructors each want 15. So 30 divided by 2 equals 15. That all balances out perfectly. They each output 15. So 15 comes out, becomes 30 on this belt. That constructor only wants 10. So there is an excess amount of iron rods being made. I wasn't trying to take fall damage there. What's going to happen is those iron rods are going to back up into the storage container. So if we need iron rods, we can come to this storage container and there will be some in here because the constructors are making 3 times more than what this constructor wants. So for every 30 that they put out, 20 stay in this bin. The other 10 go to this guy, and it turns them into screws. So this storage bin will have screws in it. We're going to come over here. We're going to put another storage bin down over here. The reason for this storage bin is solely so we have some backup. And this is why we build on foundations. Because when you don't build on foundations, the uneven terrain makes your conveyor belts do some funky stuff. But now, instead of the iron plates building up here in the output buffer, they're going to build up in this storage bin. Once the storage bin's full, the conveyor belt will back up, and then the output buffer will fill up. We're also going to come over to the copper, and we're going to put another storage bin there. That way, at any given time, we have a storage bin of concrete. We have a storage bin of copper wire, and I'm only calling it copper wire because there is other recipes later in the game where you can make wire out of other resources. But since we're not going to be using alternate recipes for quite a while, we're just going to stick with copper wire for right now. Now we have a storage bin that's going to take this output buffer and fill up. So we'll have a storage bin of copper wire. We have a storage bin of concrete, which you've seen me go access a couple times now, because I can't actually get enough. Didn't actually have enough concrete at the beginning of this episode to not have to do that. But that's kind of part of the game. You're going to not have resources in your pocket. As you see, this conveyor belt is empty. It has processed all of the wood. This conveyor belt is also empty. It has processed almost all of the leaves. If it doesn't have 10 leaves, it does not make biomass. It only had 8 out of the 10. Well, we got a few more leaves, so let's throw those in there. And I could have put those in the storage bin and let them feed through. But I can also just put them straight into the input buffer. These conveyor belts have all emptied out because all the extra is right here. And the input buffer on these guys is full. Down the road, we will be moving all of this back another notch because there is something we can turn biomass briquettes into. And I'm just going to call them biomass briquettes because to me, biomass is literally any mass that is biological in nature. But let's see if we have the stuff on us to smack that big red button. We got the wire, and we're almost there on the plates. I've probably got enough in the bin. Yes, I do. Okay, I smack the big red button and finish out Tier 1. And let Ada have her moment.
Milestone reached. Supply the molecular analysis machine, referred to as the MAM, with local resources to research and develop new technologies. Potential technologies include exploration tools, weapons, and factory buildings. These are essential for maximizing your Pioneer efficiency in alignment with Fixit's core pillars: construct, automate, explore, and exploit. To advance Fixit's mission, all notable phenomena, resources, technology, or other influence should be investigated regardless of any perceived danger, as stated in the Pioneer contract.
Okay, now that Ada's done with her little spiel, if you look in the lower left, you'll see that my health bar is almost full again. That's why I don't worry about taking a little bit of fall damage here and there. And as long as you have absolutely full health, you can fall from freaking space and not die. You'll be pretty close. But I wanted to finish Tier 1 because Tier 2 becomes vitally important. Every one of these tiers, there's at least one thing in them that is massively important to continuing to progress. Part assembly unlocks the assembler. We're going to need that. The copper sheets. We're going to want those. And a bunch of other stuff. Obstacle clearing gives us the next step of biomass called solid biofuel, or as a lot of us call it, bio nuggies. Also gives us the chainsaw, which, everybody likes a chainsaw, and now let's get rid of trees that are in our way. Faster belts? Yes, please. Awesome sink, awesome shop? Trust me, we'll want these. Jump pads? I've never used these. So we're not going to worry about those. But that concludes Tier 1. That gets you set up, if you're following along, that gets you set up with a small factory making iron rods, making screws, making iron plates. Over in the distance, we have copper wire being made. We have concrete being made. And we have a semi-automated power plant. We will have a fully automated power plant very soon. But that's not the scope of today's episode. So honestly, we've made it pretty far. And here's the freighter coming back, so if we wanted to do Tier 2 stuff, we could. We're not going to, because that's the end of the episode. If you enjoyed the content, remember to smack that like button. If you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button. It's free for you, helps me out a great deal. Lets YouTube know they need to send me a very nicely worded letter telling me that I've been a good boy. And until next time, I've been an Idjit. Obviously.